where the players loved each other, where they were willing to give up statistical or awards or recognition so that the team could function at its absolute best. And when you think about being a Christian, that's really what the Christian life is about.
Amen.
Is
Amen.
everybody playing their role so that at the end of the day, when something successful happens, God can be given the credit and the glory.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what happened with our team this year. And because of that, the young men got to have an amazing experience as a group, as a team, as brothers, as family, that they will take with them into their married lives, into their relationships with their sons and daughters someday, and with people that they work for. So
Hello, everyone. This is Tim Brown, author of the book Uncommon Athletes Filled with Passion, Fueled by Purpose. And I'm also on staff here in Central Iowa, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And so I'm blessed to have me today, Coach Kevin Weakley. I've known Coach for a good while. Coach was actually my son's coach when he played basketball at Worthington Christian High School. And his group, his freshman class was the class who broke Coach in. You know, it was his first team back almost 20 some years ago. And Coach got a little more, he had a little more hair back then, didn't have all that gray, and he was young, 24 years old, just all hyper on the sideline. You know, he actually jump out there and do a drill with them. But I know them days is over. You know, Coach, to put up the shoes. But coaches, welcome to the show. How are you today?
well, thanks for the opportunity to be here, and I'm just looking forward to talking about sports and hoops and integrating, obviously, my faith into our discussion as well. So really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, well, thanks, Coach. Let's jump right in. Can you talk about growing up in a basketball family? Your dad was been a long time coach. Your brothers played basketball. How was that growing up in a basketball family?
Well, I mean, sitting here at 45 years old today, it's really all I've known,
Mm,
from day one. Uh, just tagging along wherever my dad went. My brothers and I, always with the ball in our hands, and sometimes it was just watching and observing, and sometimes it was running out at halftime and shooting around, and but just always being in the gym, always being around it, and so I think one of the things that was really special for Brian, Jason, and I, my two brothers, was that we had a mother that really didn't know anything about basketball.
okay.
We were really fortunate, regardless of how we played
Right,
or how the day went. When Dad came home, when Brian, Jason, and I came home, Mom told us that we did really well,
right.
and regardless of how things went. So
Wow.
we had a great balance in our home of a father who really understood the game and loved it with a passion, and a
Yeah.
mother who didn't know much about it but loved us with a passion.
Right, right.
It
That's
was a
good
great
stuff.
balance of growing up for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. You mentioned that word passion, and in the book Uncommon Athletes, I talk a lot about athletes finding their passion. When did you? I know your dad took you in the gym and all that around the game, but when did you personally find your passion for the game? Where did that come from?
I'm a little interesting in my family because my dad and my brother Brian in particular, they love basketball. I mean, it's eat, sleep, and drink basketball all the time, even when they're on vacation. I'm a little bit different. I'm very relational. I don't think a lot of people probably know that about me. But one of the things that really drew me to the sport of basketball was the team aspect of it.
Mm,
And I just loved, as a young boy, being in the locker room and listening to my dad talk to the team and being on
mm,
the bench as the water boy and watching the older players interact with each other.
mm.
And just always remember wanting to be a part of something that was bigger than just me. That's what I think drew me to the sport of basketball because it's a great team game.
That's good stuff. Yeah, I think some people miss that part of the game. You know, they're watching the games, want to make buckets, but they miss the things you remember most is those times in the locker room, those bus rides, you know, all those kind of things, stuff that goes on in practice that people don't see. You know, those are the stories when you get together 20 years from now. Everybody's got one of those stories, you know. Speaking of that, How has faith played a role in your basketball and coaching success?
I've been really fortunate, Tim, to be around and be mentored by several men who really love Jesus.
Mhm.
So part of my coaching background, most of it, stems back to watching my dad. He was involved with Athletes in Action. When I was a young boy, he played and coached. We were in Canada, all across the world,
Mm.
and getting a chance to him share his testimony in front of hundreds and thousands of people in the United States and abroad. And then, just growing up in a home where Jesus mattered,
Mm.
uh, where it wasn't always about wins and losses. It was about how we acted and what did we play with great sportsmanship, and did we make decisions where character played a role in those decisions. And then as my parents turned my brothers and I over to other coaches, I had the opportunity to play in high school for Ray Schlegel, who was a tremendous mentor for me and used basketball and our relationship to lead me towards Christ.
Mm.
And so I would say, faith has played a really important part for me, but a large reason why is because of the men that influenced me and taught me how Christ should be a part of the game of basketball. I've told people often that my goal as athletic director at our school and as basketball coach is to use the sport of basketball to lead young men and sometimes young women towards Christ. It's the vehicle that I try to use through my faith, and so it plays an important role. I hope that when people look at me um, and they make observations of the way that I coach and the way that I interact with kids, I hope that they say that Jesus is a big part of what I do, and my faith plays a big role in my role as a coach.
Yeah, I can attest to that, and watching you on the sidelines and watching how you interact, with your players both on and off the court. And the relationship you still have with those guys, how those great seeds were definitely planted. God bless you with a great gift, to play this game, and you used it. You used it well. Talk a little about your high school and college basketball career on the court.
But so long ago, at this point, all I seemed to be able to do was play horse.
You
Or
still
read.
remember that you had a good little state championship run in high school and made it to the tournament. Talk about those experiences.
I grew up at Worthington Christian with Todd Hummerkauser, Craig Hadley, John Damschroeder.
Yeah.
Had the opportunity in high school to play with Tony Patterson, Tim Cranack, who's a good friend of mine. I just have so many lifelong great memories of playing in high school. Ray Schlegel was a phenomenal mentor, coach for me. We played really fast.
Right.
I remember when we were kind of coming through early on at Worthington Christian. Ray had taken over, and his first year coaching, his teams were shooting 35, 43s in a game, and
Right.
a lot of old timers around Columbus were like, "Who is this guy? That's not how you play basketball." And within 3 or 4 years, you could really see Ray's influence over the game in not only Central Ohio but Ohio. And we just had a blast running up and down the floor, shooting a lot of threes, and we were able to compete with teams that were a lot more talented than us, simply because we played together as a team, and we were able to negate some size and quickness issues with our 3-point shooting. So that was really fun. And then obviously when I played at Otterbein, I played for a Hall of Fame coach. I always like to give Coach Reynolds credit for much of what I do as a coach now, even 21 years later. I spent hours and hours and hours in his office watching film with him, and he just taught me um, how to look at the game in different ways. And he is just a phenomenal basketball mind, and I'm just so thankful, obviously, for the chance to play in college, but probably more for my career. What Coach Reynolds did for me in preparing me to be a coach from a strategic standpoint, I'm just so thankful for that opportunity.
Yeah, you can tell that you truly are a student of the game. And one thing about any Worthington Christian basketball team is never gone into a game not prepared. Your guys are always prepared. for whatever team throws at you. And so that's a testament to your upbringing and your as a coach and as a point guard, as a player, as well as a leader on different teams. In high school, you also met your wife in high school. There's a funny story going around that your dad wouldn't allow y'all to date in high school. That no phone calls, no girls could come by, and there's a story that your future bride would come by and park her car down the street and then come around to the back window, and you guys had to talk through the window. Any truth to that story, Coach? Am I
Yeah,
making that up?
those stories are all true. And I hope my kids don't watch and get any ideas. But yeah, we there was no cell phones. We didn't even have pagers at that time. No call waiting. So Anne Marie and I would spend hours on the phone together in eighth, ninth grade, and we would get these collect calls from the operator Scott Weakley trying to get through from Capital University. And yeah, I spent I got in trouble many times for those phone calls and trying to spend time with my girlfriend at the time, but
Yeah.
it worked out okay, I think.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Worked out well. Worked out well. Married, 3 children later. Worked out great if you ask me. And I'm sure you know how great it's worked out for you. Yeah, that's too funny. That's too funny. Now you come back full circle to Worthington Christian as a coach, from being a player, and now you come back as a coach. Where did that bug come from to become a coach? Where did that come from? What excited you about that opportunity?
It was interesting. When I met with Coach Reynolds at Otterbein my freshman year, he asked me, "What do you want to do when you're done here at Otterbein?" And I remember telling him word verbatim, Coach, I'm not really sure what I want to do, but I'm positive that I don't want to coach or be around high school kids. And it's funny how God has a sense of humor sometimes.
Right.
And he brought me obviously to a situation where I started off with coaching, teaching PE and coaching here at Worthington Christian 21 years ago, and I it was really interesting how God ordained that for me. Tom Angel, our late principal, and Kent Homley, the athletic director. There wasn't a spot at Worthington Christian when I was looking for a job, and the PE teacher all of a sudden resigned, and Coach Flagel got the job at Cedarville, and within a couple days, there was both a teaching job and a coaching job available at the school. And it just was God leading, in my view, opening a door for me to do something that he felt I could maybe do and do in a way that honored him.
Yeah, once again, we know that God has his hand. As we look back over our lives, we can see that God has had his hand in all things. The Bible says this: all things work together, for the good of those who love the Lord, that are called according to his purpose. And I really believe you were called to that position, and you accepted the call, and how well things have worked out for you. As we look back over this season, this was an unusual season, COVID season, and ups and downs throughout the year. But you were able to your team had a great run. You're able to play 30 games, which ended in the actually made in the state championship game, won the district regional, and made it to the runner-up in the states. Talk a little bit about this unusual season, how you're able to persevere through, and the young men.
Well, this season started back over a year ago when we lost to Harvest Prep in the district championship, and it was the leaders on our team and their desire to improve upon where we left off that year. So even during the shutdown in March, April, May, our guys were working really hard, not only on their games but on their spiritual lives, what they wanted to be. I mean, what they wanted to have happen this year. And when we got together June 1st, normally we have 10 coaching days in the summer. Well, we couldn't participate with other schools, so we just started practicing. I mean, it was June, July, August. We probably practiced more during the summer than we did even during the season.
Right.
So when we came into the season, we were ready from a preparation standpoint, and we brought back a really veteran team. The biggest challenge this year was the Department of Health and OSHA and all of the governing bodies basically said, don't get together. don't spend time together. Put your mask on, take your mask off, put it back on. And so, one of the things we talked about initially was just what makes the high school season memorable and fun. It's those team meals, it's the locker rooms, it's the time spent together after practice. And basically we were told you can do none of those things. And at a school like ours, I don't know what it's like at other schools for other coaches, but it is so difficult to develop chemistry on your team where the players are willing to sacrifice their desires for the good of the group. And when you can't do the things that help facilitate good chemistry, it just makes it a real challenge. And it speaks to the really strong character of our players and families that we were able to get to a place at the end of this year, despite not having those opportunities, where the players loved each other, where they were willing to give up statistical or awards or recognition so that the team could function at its absolute best. And when you think about being a Christian, that's really what the Christian life is about.
Amen.
Everybody playing their role so that at the end of the day, when something successful happens, God can be given the credit and the glory. And I think that's what happened with our team this year. And because of that, the young men got to have an amazing experience as a group, as a team, as brothers, as family, that they will take with them into their married lives, into their relationships with their sons and daughters someday, and with people that they work for. So I was just so thankful that they had the opportunity to do that. It speaks to the leaders at our school board, Mr. McIntosh, Buzz Imbo, and Tim Crank, just giving us the opportunity to do that, because we were one of the only teams in Central Ohio that was playing basketball starting in late November. And so we just have a lot to be thankful for.
Yeah, it's truly a memorable season. And one thing that those guys will, and I'm sure they will, give all credit to God, who truly kept them safe, kept them healthy, and gave them that opportunity to share, to be a witness. And I think that's what you guys did throughout the season. People were watching you guys and being that witness to others of how good God is, how faithful God is. And now as we talk about your family a little bit, as a father of 3 children who are involved in sports and have success, what advice would you share with parents? I know you wear a lot of hats there as basketball coach, athletic director, and now you're kind of in it as well. You're in all areas. What advice would you share with parents?
Oh boy, I am not a perfect parent. My wife and I have made a lot of mistakes. I think, when you get to a place like you are, and maybe a place that Anna and I are at, where we start looking back and say, and our kids graduate and they move on to different parts of their life, you just wonder, okay, what would I have done maybe a little bit different? And one thing that I've learned, my wife and I have learned, is that there is a significant difference between your kids' performance and our kids' purpose. And we when you get in, we're obviously a family that's really involved in sports, and it's so easy to get wrapped up into how what are the stats like, and what are the awards, and what team are you playing the AAU for, and what's the recognition, and are your kids being recruited, and all these different things. And that's not what matters. And I think children sometimes, all they really want is to have fun playing the sport that they're involved in. And they want their parents to love them. And so my wife and I God really took us through a journey on what the difference was between them performing, which when they perform well, that's great. But when they don't perform, that's okay too, because that's God teaching them through failure. And making sure that we really focus on their hearts and who they are in Christ, teaching them to give anything that they do well to God for his glory, and coming to the feet of the cross and God's love when they're struggling and facing some anxieties that, will certainly come in life. So just, love your kids, try not to focus too much on their performance, and try to focus on the things that really matter in life. Because when you and I look back at our kids and what they did or didn't do, what's going to matter most is what's in their heart. And obviously, hopefully they had a good experience playing. And we as parents contribute a lot to whether or not that experience was a positive one or not.
Hmm. Wow, that's powerful. That's a powerful word. I had to write that down. Purpose versus performance versus purpose. Yeah, there is a purpose, and I think sometimes as parents we get caught up. We miss what the purpose of sports is. And the reason why they're playing the game. Is it for numbers? Is it for stats? Is it for likes? Is it for that highlight film on Instagram? To be the top player. What is that purpose? And that purpose is, as you eloquently stated, is to glorify God in your heart. Have God in your heart. Do unto, not unto man, but unto the Lord. That's who we play for. We play for God. And if that's in our heart, we're going to be successful and and that's our purpose. Wow, that's great. As we wrap up, Coach, this has been I knew it would be a enlightening conversation for me and for others as well. But I want you to talk about, we know that faith is important in your life, but how do you incorporate faith in your coaching philosophy, for some coaches? Because I think we live in a world now where, is it okay to talk about the Lord? Is it okay to talk about Jesus? To talk about, how do you, and I know people think because you're at a Christian school that every player on your team has come through your program as a believer, a follower of Jesus Christ. And you and I know that that's not necessarily the case. So how do you incorporate faith into your coaching philosophy?
Well, it's unique at Worthington Christian because I can talk about
Yeah.
Jesus and
Mm-hmm.
my relationship with him. I became a Christian at a young age, and there were several men in my life growing up that instilled within me even a greater desire to please the Lord in all that I do and say. And coaching just provides a tremendous platform to share Christ. I get the chance to talk to our kids every day about different things, and incorporate God's word into those things. I said this at the state tournament after the game, and I really believe it to be true. As a Christian coach, one of the things that God has taught me over 21 years is that um, my desire should not be to win state championships or to be the coach of the year or to amass a certain number of wins over the course of my time coaching, however long God allows me to do it. It should simply be to use basketball to teach young men how to become good fathers and good husbands and be men of integrity and use the gifts and abilities that they have for God's glory. And I heard an old Bexley coach say one time, he used the word men under construction. And so I've kind of taken that as my theme here at Worthington Christian. I've got a big poster frame in my office with each player that has graduated in our program. Your son is on it.
All right. Yeah.
And at the bottom of it, it says men under construction. And that's really what these guys are, is, and it could be women under construction as well. Is that they are young people who are yearning for godly men and women to teach them, and help them grow in their faith. And I've got some really great people around me, Mark Hummerkauser and Josh Stimmel, Tayron Howe, who you know really well.
Yeah.
And when you can put really good men around these young people, and then you can demonstrate, hopefully, God's word and all that you do and say, hopefully we're discipling them and leading them towards Christ. And I don't believe there should be a day that goes by where we don't pray, where we don't spend time talking about, what happened in the game the night before. And we try to incorporate our faith into all of those discussions. So I hope the kids that have played for me would say that, Jesus is a big part of what we do. People in sports throw out the word culture all the time.
Right.
And I hope that Worthington Christian, in our basketball program, that we have a culture where Jesus matters, and where winning is not what the scoreboard says at the end of the game. It's, do the young men grow in their faith, and do they have a better understanding of who Christ is when they graduate from our program?
Amen. Well, Coach, I want to thank you for your time, and I want to commend you for your leadership, for answering God's call and being that leader of young men, and truly those men who are under construction. You are what I call, now you're at that age where you're a Paul, you know, and you have a bunch of Timothys with you, you know, and the Bible says there's one man plants, another one waters, but God gets the increase. And God has truly gotten abundant increase from the young man whose life you poured into. So, Coach, I want to thank you for your time, and I want to pray that you would just continue to have great success in leading young men and those men under construction. So, thanks for your time, Coach.
I appreciate the opportunity, Tim, and thanks for all you're doing in Central Ohio for impacting kids for Christ. Really, it's really awesome what you do.
All right. Thanks, Coach. Be blessed.
Thank you.